do you do in the program? I told her that we read from the Bhagavad Gita, we have discussions, and then after that we have lunch. So she was telling me, oh, I've read the edition of Bhagavad Gita which is sold out here. It is self-explanatory. The person who has given explanation, the author, he has explained it so well. What do you discuss in the class? I told her it's just that all devotees are present together. So we just share our thoughts and realizations after reading the purpose. So I really felt good after talking to her because she made me realize that the Bhagavad Gita, it's just so well explained because of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So today we'll start from chapter 9, text 4. Yeah. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matsthani sarvabhutani nachanteshvavasya. Would somebody like to repeat?
Maya tatam idam sarvam
Maya tatam idam sarvam
jagat avyaktamurtina
jagat avyaktamurtina matsthani sarvabhutani nachanteshvavasya. Translate. You want to?
Maya tatam idam sarvam
Maya tatam idam sarvam
jagat vyakta murtina
jagat avyaktamurtina
matsthina sarva bhutani
matsthani sarvabhutani
vasthita.
nachanteshvavasya. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matsthani sarvabhutani nachanteshvavasya.
Maya tatam idam sarvam
Maya tatam idam sarvam
jagat avyaktamurtina
jagat avyaktamurtina matsthani sarvabhutani nachanteshvavasya. Okay, translations. Would somebody like to read?
And by me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is beings are in me, but I am not in them.
Okay. So this purport is very nice. I'll read some parts of it whenever I feel like. So here in this verse, previously in the 9th chapter, which is titled as the most confidential knowledge, we started with performing skits and we covered 2 texts, 1 and 2. After that, I was not present in the class. So could you all just recollect some points so that I can also be in the flow of the class? What?
We was about faith. We should have faith in it. Then you can
Okay.
we divided into 3 classes: first class, second class, and third class. First class is the one who is completely with football, complete faith and nothing. You can reach the ball. Second class is like karma card. So I think third class is the karma card. Yeah, third class is karma card. You want to return something.
Okay. Second class.
Fire is over, they fall back in their services. That is the third class.
Second is those who understand that Krishna consciousness is only
Is only
pride.
prime. Okay.
They understand that Krishna consciousness is prime, the second one, and they are doing their devotional service also. and but still they are not aware of the scriptures very much.
Oh,
In the scriptures, they are not very aware of the scriptures, the second class. And the third class ones are the ones who come with their desires, and once they are economically well balanced and everything gets fulfilled, they fall back. They,
Devi and Krishna message. Okay.
Yeah, I have what I understood from that.
Okay.
First people are those people who understand Bhagavad Gita and they do Bhakti. Second class are those people who do Bhakti without knowing the background or the state. This is how it is. Third one is the people who don't do Bhakti. They just read, they know something and they don't do anything. Out of it. So they do Bhakti because they want something.
इसमें लिखा हुआ है पर
Second class is
Okay. You would like to clarify?
Krishna is kind. That is
Hare Krishna. So, three, I think Purport very clearly mentions what those three kinds of faith are. Right. This is verse number 3.
ninth chapter is three more points.
Most comprehensive
as
knowledge.
far as the third class person
They have no faith.
in Krishna consciousness is concerned, although he has faith in the conviction that devotional service to Krishna is very good, he has not yet gained adequate knowledge of Krishna through the scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes these third class persons in Krishna consciousness have tendency towards karma yoga and jnana yoga, and sometimes they are disturbed. But as soon as the infection of karma yoga or jnana yoga is vanquished, they become second class or first class persons in Krishna consciousness. Faith in Krishna is also divided in 3 stages. As described in the first class attachment, second class attachment, and the third class attachment are also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 11th canto. Those who have no faith, even after hearing about Krishna and the excellence of the devotional service, who think that it is simply theology, find the path very difficult, even if they are supposedly engaged in devotional service. For them, there is very little hope of gaining perfection. The state is very important in the discharge of devotion.
So, we know the 9 processes of bhakti, right? How does it start? Not the 9 processes, but the 9 stages of bhakti. 9 stages in devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam is 9 processes. But there are 9 stages. As one progresses, he goes to one stage after another. 9 processes are different from the 9 stages. So, stage Shuddha, faith, Sangha. Sangha means next association means. Third is Bhajan Kriya. Sadhu Sangha, Tata Bhajan Kriya. Tata Anartha Nivritti Shyat. The fourth is Anartha Nivritti, which means getting from Nishtha. Nishtha is the state of it. So when one becomes free from that, he reaches the stage Nishtha. So faith is there actually at this stage. It's just that as we progress, it becomes firm. Firm faith means that he is completely convinced that so without knowledge, the person is in third class faith because he doesn't have much knowledge, he can be shaken anytime. He may be questioned by people and asked, "Oh, how do you say this? How do you say that?" Right? So they are, and if he's questioned like that, he will not be able to answer. A first class devotee, a first person in the first class faith, he can convince anyone about Krishna consciousness. Like we see from the life of Srila Prabhupada. Right? He could give it to people, even if they did not have it. And he could convince anyone. That is first class. And second stage is someone who has faith, he has read the books also. Right? He's practicing the regulations of bhakti. Right? But he may not be able to convince everyone about it. Right? That is the second stage. Right? So that verse says Ashadadhana Purusha Dharmasasya Parantapa Aprapti mam vartante with mrityu sansara vartmani, that if someone doesn't have faith, he will have to come back to this world. Right. So the question may be that, why you are asking us to put faith? Why should we put faith? Get liberated. But isn't this blind faith?
Without knowledge, it is blind.
Without knowledge, it is blind. Yes. And actually, if you see that you have put faith somewhere, no one is there who can say, I have not put faith anywhere. So we do our education in faith that I will actually, become very qualified and earn a lot. Therefore, you put faith. So you sit in a cab, you have faith in the driver that he has a he is not drunk. Right? You're putting faith. So we put faith everywhere. But only when it comes to religion, people say, "Arey, yeah, Shraddha pe kyun bolte?" Why do we have to put faith? So faith is required everywhere, practically. Right? And therefore, Krishna says that one who doesn't put faith, uh, he will continue in this cycle of birth and death. That is verse 3. Any other points also from the previous class? I think.
Krishna is trying. Your 8 hours of work can be reduced to 1 hour. Somebody says that I do not have time for devotional service. Then Krishna says that it is understood that Krishna is time. So if you give time to him in his devotional service, then he will create time for him for devotional service. That's what.
And that one more point that why should we where should we put faith? So as Prabhu said, that faith we have to put with knowledge. So yes, blind faith is when we don't use our intelligence, when we place our faith in something. But Prabhupada always says that we need to put faith in the right place. So even when we try to put our children in some school, we do so much of research. Like my sister was trying to put my nephew in the school, so much research was done in putting in just trying to admit him in some school. Similarly, here also, when we put our faith in Krishna consciousness, we have so many scriptures, and then the devotees are there who are convinced about this fact. If we hear from them, if we read these scriptures, then with intelligence we can put faith. Then it's not blind. I personally like this point of putting faith with intelligence, so I wanted to expand on it. So we'll carry on with the next verse. So here Krishna says, by me in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. So in this verse, Krishna is saying that it is in his unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. So when we talk about somebody pervading the entire thing, Prabhupada gives an example of sun pervades everywhere with its light. So the heat and light of the sun pervades throughout the universe. And just like the sun with the energy, something material, sun is a material object. Something a material object can pervade the entire universe with its potencies like heat and light, then why not a supreme personality of Godhead can pervade with his potencies? So we have this verse, Parasha Shakti Vividhaiva Shruyate, that Krishna has multifarious potencies. So Krishna has so many potencies, and with those potencies, he is pervading everywhere. So by me in my unmanifested form. So why unmanifested form? Know that the Brahman effulgence is pervading the entire universe. Brahmanohi Pratishtaham, that verse. So Krishna says that with his Brahman effulgence, he is pervading the entire universe. So yes, in his unmanifested form, he is pervading the entire universe. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. So we can understand this point further if we read Prabhupada's purport. Here Prabhupada says that Lord Shri Krishna's name, fame, pastimes, etc. cannot be understood by material senses. This is translation to the verse Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavek graya indriye sevan mukhe vado. Need to one English and I am not in them. Why? Because living entities, the different manifestations we see, they lying in the within the potency of the Lord, but not being able to visualize it, we are not able to see it. That is why it is said, all beings are in me, but I am not in them. Because we, with our vision, our material, cannot see the Lord. The question may arise: how can we perceive the Lord if He is present? Somebody says that the Lord is present everywhere, pervading everywhere. We may believe it for some time, but experience of harming that can be experienced Krishna Namaki, no Bhagavad Gracias, Sevan Mukhi Jivado, Swayameva Swaratita. Sevan, sorry.
Yes, true.
So Sevan Mukhi Jivado. So this is an important point. How can we perceive the Lord? Everywhere, by offering our services. Sevan Mukhi Jivado. And the first kind of service that we can do is by our tongue. And what are the services that we can do with our tongue? Kirtanam and chanting, Kirtanam, glorifying the Lord. This is how we can eat prasadam. That's so tasty, yes. So with the tongue, we can chant and we can eat. So just by engaging our tongue, we can begin our service to the Lord. And as we start offering the service, we can spiritualize our senses, our material senses, because it's written here that just by offering service to the Lord, we can spiritualize our material senses, and then we will be able to see the Lord. So why this transformation is required? So just like if somebody has some power in the eyes, like I have some power in the eyes, if I remove it, then if from a distance, I'll not be able to see the details. So while having darshan of the deities, if I have to see everything in details, I have to wear these specs. So because of the defect in my eye, I need these specs to be able to see the Lord. Similarly, because of our contact with the material world, our senses have been infected by the material disease. We cannot see with our material senses, but we spiritualize it by offering services to the Lord, by chanting His glories, the name, fame, pastimes of the Lord, eat prasadam. Then we're spiritualizing our senses. We are taking a step towards offering to the Lord. Then we to perceive Him with our senses. In the next line, what is it? This pure devotional, when one engages in pure devotional service and proper guidance. This is very important. Just offering service is not sufficient. We are supposed to do it properly. Why just offer service? If I know the fact that I'm supposed to offer service, where the factor of proper guidance is required. So we can understand this with an example. I met a girl once and she was telling me that I don't chant 16 rounds. I don't chant Hare Krishna mantra like you all. I don't do so much worship like you all. But I have so much of love and faith for Lord Krishna. I have his photo with me and I talk and I speak out all my problems to him. So she was innocently speaking like that. And according to her, that is her devotion. So in the scriptures, we understand when we are practicing devotional service, what happens, what is the result? Jnana Vairagya is the byproduct of offering devotional service. That's the verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I cannot recollect. So just by offering devotional service, we get knowledge and renunciation. Like if we eat food, our hunger is satisfied. Similarly, when we offer devotional service, we develop our attachment to the Lord. Then what happens? We get knowledge. Knowledge what? That we are part and parcel of the Lord. We're supposed to offer Him services. That is how we are satisfied. And then we get renunciation. Just by offering this service, we get so much of attachment with the Lord that we understand the temporariness of the material world, and we don't get attached to it. So this result was not coming in her practice of so-called Krishna consciousness. Though she was talking to the Lord every day, she had the photo of the Lord. okay, she had some appreciation for the Lord, but the knowledge and renunciation was not coming. Why? Because that proper guidance was missing. So that is why this verse highlights that when one engages in pure devotional service under proper guidance, then one can experience Krishna. So, as I spoke about that girl yesterday, whom I met, that she was reading Bhagavad Gita and she found it so self-explanatory. So, just by the guidance of Srila Prabhupada, she was able to understand the mystery of Bhagavad Gita so easily. So, under the proper guidance, she was being able to experience Krishna in this book. And yes, also we have heard that in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, we can see Krishna face to face. And if we see Radha Ras Bihari through the eyes of the devotees who have struggled to build this temple, then we see him also. Like before, when I took darshan of Radha Ras Bihari, being new in Mumbai, I didn't develop so much affection. But after hearing from my husband, then Giriraj Swami Maharaj was speaking that day on the anniversary. So things are different because they have offered their service. They have developed. They have some experience of serving the Lord. So after hearing from them, then when we start serving the Lord or when we see the Lord, it's a different experience. We can say confidently, yes, Radha Ras Bihari is a reciprocative deity. And it is not a blind faith, because here we are talking about some science that we hear, we offer service, and then we experience Krishna. It's a fact. It's not like that the girl was saying that I talk to Krishna and talk of problems and he's my best friend. So if if Krishna were really her best friend, then she would want to advance in devotional service, but that was not a fact. But we see her devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement, when they step in, they practice devotional service and they want to progress more and more and more because they experience Krishna more and more and more every step. So that is why here when Krishna says, all beings are in me, but I am not in them. So to be able to see Krishna everywhere, the all pervasiveness of the Lord, we understand that we are supposed to practice devotional service properly. Okay. So from this, I'll go further, but because it's my first time, I just wanted to say, is there anything that is confusing in my way of delivery? Then I'll try to. Would you like to add something? Okay, fine. So next, yes, because Krishna is all pervasive, people may even question that because he has expanded himself everywhere, where is that personal form of the Lord? Like people usually give that example that if from a glass of water I take out water, then they come out. So if the God is all personal form of the Lord. So how would you answer?
Like when we talk about
Yes.
system is not so what is that like it's a sagar so sagar में से अगर कोई 10 लोटा 20 लोटा पानी निकाल के ले there is really going to take differences so I see it from that perspective.
Sorry, could you repeat once?
Saying that from the sea, if you take out water little bit, and the sea will always remain. That is how you see it.
Okay. So yes, well,
Means God stay in our heart in Paramatma form, right? Zero the child is right? So that so he is there in that form, but yes, he is like a from that perspective, and if he is present as usual, doesn't mean that he is not present everywhere. He cannot be. So it is because that the quantum that makes the differences. That is how I perceive so far. Based on my understanding.
okay. So yes, Prabhu was saying that even though it's just like that example that even though the sea, the ocean is so wide, if we take water from the ocean, it never gets empty. And even though the Lord is present in everyone's heart, because that potency of the Lord by which He is present in everybody's heart. What does Krishna says about that? Ekam Shena Sthito Jagat. Just by my small ansh, Ekam Shena, one ansh, one, just a minute potency of mine, I can pervade the entire universe. So we understand that Krishna has multifarious potencies by which he's actually pervading. And if we see an example that we discussed, like the sun, if some material object can pervade everywhere with the potencies, then why not the Supreme Lord? And then there's another example I've heard some devotees say that when we hear the word Microsoft, immediately we remember the big company Microsoft and its owner Bill Gates. But of course, Microsoft is not equivalent to Bill Gates. And because he has developed that company Microsoft, that doesn't mean that the personal firm or the person Bill Gates has dissipated in the company itself. So we see that in a material example also, that the living entity has some potency, and by that potency, he or she is pervading in some area. So why not the Supreme Lord? The Supreme Lord can pervade everywhere. So even though he's pervading, he has a personal existence also. So this is what Prabhupada is clarifying. The first we discussed that in his unmanifested form, he's pervading the entire universe, and then all beings are in him, but he's not in them. We also discussed this part. Yet one should. And then Prabhupada also gives the example that the king heads the government. The government is the energy of the Lord, but that does not take away the personal existence of the king. It's pervading the entire kingdom. Okay. That is a crude example of verses. Okay. So like this, both in the material world and spiritual world, Krishna is present with his multifarious potencies. And still, he has his personal representation. Okay. Yeah.
So this verse is that in my unmanifested form, the entire universe is pervaded. So generally, people have this question that, okay, God is everywhere, then why we can't see him? Right? So Prabhupada very nicely highlighted, and she pointed out that we can actually see Krishna, but then that seeing Krishna doesn't happen, with these eyes. So Prabhupada would say that, why are you so proud of your eyes? Like imagine now if we switched off all the lights here, would we be able to see each other? No, right? So that means our eyes are also defective because it requires some external lighting. It requires the sun or the electricity for us to be able to see. And yet we are so proud of our eyes that we say that why we can't see God. So even seeing God requires qualification. So that qualification is, like Prabhupada mentioned, Atha Shri Krishna Namani, that by devotional service one can actually understand, perceive the Lord, which begins by the tongue. Right? And then all the other senses, like all the other processes, Shravanam Kirtanam, when we engage in that, that is what qualifies us. To the extent that actually a pure devotee sees Krishna everywhere. So that verse from the Brahma Samhita, Primanjana Churita, Bhakti Vilochanena, Santa Sadeva, Hrideshu Vilokayanti. So that verse says that a pure devotee, he can see Krishna everywhere. Wherever he sees Krishna only. How does he see Krishna everywhere? Because his eyes are anointed with the salve of love. Because he has so much love for the Lord that wherever he sees, he's seeing Krishna. So that is the state of the pure devotee. For us, at our level, we cannot see like that. So we have to develop devotional service. And when our devotional service becomes pure, then we'll be able to see Krishna everywhere. Right? So that is pure devotional service. So, yes, Prahlad Maharaj, yes. So, like Prahlad Maharaj could see everywhere, right? His father asked him, right, Kashu, where is God? Is he there in this pillar also? Yes, he's there in this pillar. So that is when he struck the pillar and Lord Narasimhadev came out. So Lord Narasimhadev came out just to keep the word of his devotee, Prahlad. of course, the Lord is there everywhere, and Prahlad Maharaj could actually see the Lord everywhere, right? So that is the state of a pure devotee, that wherever he sees, he's seeing the presence of the Lord, right? So the Lord is present in different ways also. And what are his energies? So we see the material energy, it's working. It's not working just on its own by chance. It's working because of the will of the Lord. So when, okay, that is in there in the next verse. I'm not in there yet, so you'll see that further.
Hare Krishna. Yes. So we carry on to the next verse. 9.5. न च मत्स्थानि भूतानि पश्य मे योगमैश्वरम् भूतभृन्न च भूतस्थो ममात्मा भूतभावनात्. Okay. Would somebody like to repeat?
Okay.
Okay.
न च मत्स्थानि भूतानि
न च मत्स्थानि भूतानि
पश्य मे योगम ऐश्वरम्
पश्य मे योगमैश्वरम्
भूताभृन्न च भूतस्थो
भूतभृन्न च भूतस्थो
ममात्मा भूतभावन
ममात्मा भूतभावना.
मत्स्थानि भूतानि
न च मत्स्थानि भूतानि
पश्य मे योगमैश्वरम्
पश्य मे योगमैश्वरम्
भूतभृन्न च भूतस्थो
भूतभृन्न च भूतस्थो
ममात्मा भूतभावन
ममात्मा भूतभावना.
मत्स्थानि भूतानि
न च मत्स्थानि भूतानि
पश्य मे योगम ऐश्वरम्
पश्य मे योगमैश्वरम् भूतभृन्न च भूतस्थो ममात्मा भूतभावना. भावना. भावना. Okay.
Whether there is a line above A, there is yeah. With the dot down is like okay. With H under the H. There is a dot.
Yeah, if you let the and there's a dot towards the end, you have just
Would somebody like to read the translation? Yes.
and yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation. For myself is the very source of creation.
And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence, although I am the maintainer of all the living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation of myself. Is the very source.
Doesn't manifest is the creation.
Yes. So here Krishna says that yet everything that is created does not rest in me. So Prabhupada clarifies that when the Lord says that everything is resting on him, in the previous verses also mentioned, then okay, Matsani Sarva Bhutani. So this should not be misunderstood. So how this should not be misunderstood? Like when we think about somebody having many responsibilities, तो ऐसे लगता है ना, और responsibility में दब गया बेचारा, वैसा टाइप का feeling आता है. So when so there is a theory which says that because God is holding the responsibility of so many creations, so they envision the Lord like Atlas, who is like पूरा इसका shoulders dropping down because इतना सारा weight है, इतना weight of responsibilities है. We see that even when we get overburdened with things, we are like, oh, so many responsibilities. So we try to imagine or try to relate the Lord with our own conditioning. That if we had such responsibilities, we would be like this. So that is what Prabhupada is saying, that we should not try to envision the Lord like that Atlas holding the globe on his shoulder. He seems to be very tired. No. Why? So Krishna is saying that although he has created everything, everything does not rest in me. So what is the, so how do we understand that? This, as we discussed in the previous verses, that Parashya Shakti Vividhaiva Shruyate. Krishna has multifarious potencies, which are in themselves very potent to take care of the things assigned to them. So, like if I have a servant who's able to do what I think, whatever I have in my mind, then that kind of a servant is called an excellent servant. If I'm able to get the control of that servant eternally, then it's like, oh, mera kaam hota jayega with my just sitting here. That kind of servant is also glorified, and the master who is able to control that servant is also glorified. So we see that Krishna has many potencies, and by those potencies only he is actually trying to control everything. We see further in the purport that Krishna just needs to think what he wants to do, and everything just happens. Here we see in the second paragraph, the Supreme Lord is performing inconceivably wonderful pastimes, displaying his energy. His person is full of different potent energies, and his determination is itself actual fact. So when we determine something कि हमको ऐसा ऐसा करना है, we have to give so much of endeavor, so much of planning. But when Krishna determines that he wants to do something, it just happens. So that is the difference between us and the Lord. So we cannot actually relate our experiences with the Lord, because Krishna has so many potencies. Just by his will, everything happens. So we hear of this in the beginning, also in the introduction, it is explained how, and even the 7th chapter, that how when Krishna has material and spiritual energies, how in Bhagavatam it is explained very nicely. Krishna just glances at the material energy and the manifestation takes place. The material energy is impregnated with living entities, and the living entities they take up different bodies and populate the world. So just by his glance, everything happens. So here we see a glimpse of the fact that just by his determination to expand, to manifest the world, so many things happen. So we cannot try to relate the Lord with our experience. So Prabhupada usually gives a very common example, very famous example, that the Dr. Frog, which Prabhuji has explained very nicely in previous classes also, that the frog with its froggish mentality tries to measure the Pacific Ocean. वो well पे है, and then well से imagine करता है how big is the Pacific Ocean when he gets to know about the Pacific Ocean. Oh, this big. Oh, double the well. Oh, 3 times, 4 times. Taking the water in his mouth. So many times the Pacific Ocean is big, and then his belly bursts. So that froggish mentality, of course, cannot make him estimate how big is the Pacific Ocean. So similarly, our doing something and Krishna is doing something is different. So that is why Krishna is not overburdened with responsibilities. That is why it is said here, though everything is created by him, he does not rest. Things don't rest in him, in the sense everything is managed by his all-pervasive potencies. That behold my mystic opulence. So Krishna is everything is happening just because of him, but yet he's not personally there. Although I'm everywhere, I'm part of this cosmic manifestation. For myself is the very source of it. So though he is the source of everything, he's not a part of this cosmic manifestation. So in this example also Prabhupada gives a lot. In a jail, a jailer is trying to control all criminals. So sometimes the king comes to see the criminals, how the criminals are doing. So sometimes the criminal with their limited capacity, they think that the king is also one of them. But actually, that's not the thing, because the king is not controlled by the laws, whereas the criminal is controlled by the laws. So the king is coming out of his own will. So here also we see that though is present everywhere, the king is present through his government. He can come in, go out of the jail. He's not controlled by it. So he's all pervading, but he's not part of it. So that is very important. And then when Krishna says, "O Yogam Aishwaram," this is my mystic opulence. So recently I was saying that what is it that can attract us to the Lord? So our mind can be attracted to this great opulence of the Lord. Usually when we hear about the greatness of somebody, our mind is like directly jumping towards that. And when we see somebody beautiful, our mind is attracted to that beautiful. So by remembering these opulences of the Lord, we can engage our mind in Krishna all the time. And yes, would you like to add something?
Even of your
Yes.
devotees of Krishna, like our Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, no,
So they also have like so many responsibilities. They have so many disciples, but like they're never overburdened with it, and they're just doing their duty. So we can see it like in a material. Yeah, we don't have to think. Like we can relate them. Like Krishna, they are just pure devotees. You can imagine how great Krishna is. Then.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we'll stop here then because it's time. Any questions or comments on the parts we discussed? We discussed 2 verses. First, we discussed about Krishna pervading everywhere. Everything is in Krishna, but he's not in them. And the next, we heard about the mystic opulence of the Lord, that how he's not a part of the cosmic manifestation, though he's the source of it. So we discussed these 2 verses and the purport with it. Anything that you would like to add or ask?
I want to ask that why did Krishna state such a contradictory statement that everything doesn't rest in me, where he says that you all are part and parcel of me and everything resides in me. He's told all of this earlier in the Bhagavad. Yeah, but like it's just the burden that they're trying to. He's the creator. The burden of the creation is not under the shoulder.
Yeah. And in the verses ahead also Krishna clarifies very nice. I mean, there's a verse in which Krishna himself is saying that it's like the wind is within the sky. So the wind cannot cross the sky, but the sky has nothing to do with the wind. If the wind is, it's independent of the wind. So similarly, Krishna is trying to explain how, though he limits everything under his energy, he's independent of it. So just to explain that part, he gives this so-called contradictory statement. So this is the whole world and everything is even the 7th chapter. He gives a nice example how everything rests on him. 7.7. Matta sarvatam matta paratam nanat kinchadasi dhananjaya mai sarvani bhutani. Sorry, mai idam sarva bhutam sutre mani ganai lapivana. So it's like as balls are strung on a thread, everything is resting on me as balls are strung on a thread. So there also Krishna gives an example of how things are resting on him, just like balls are strung on a thread. So just like balls are strung on a thread, it's resting.
So he's a part of everything, not anyone.
No, he's not a part of everything. Because of the thread, the pearls are strung. But he's not the part of it. Because everything is dependent on him, but he's not a part of it. Like sky mein, we will read in the word. You want to?
Actually, it's inconceivable. Krishna is the part, and still he's not the part. It's like that. So Krishna is personally present everywhere. He's present in our heart and he can see all our actions. He knows all our thoughts. Yet he's also present there in the spiritual world in personal form. So it's kind of inconceivable. So he doesn't have to be there for the creation to happen because his energies are there, right? So at the same time, he's there also. It's like that. So it's different from the material, like she was saying. So it's different. If we compare with our life, then we might feel, you have a piece of paper, you tear it, then it's all gone. So 1 minus 1 is 0 here. But in the spiritual world, 1 minus 1 is 1. Right? So although Krishna is there everywhere, he's still not there. He's still not there, but still he's there everywhere. It's inconceivable. So his energies are there working and he's also there. But then he doesn't have to be there for things to go on. It's like that. So it's simultaneously there or there.
Is it from that perspective as well when we say this entire energy is from him and he's still not influenced by that? Is it also that perspective?
Yes, so material energy is also his, and he's not influenced by that. That is true, because it's his energy. Right? How will he be himself influenced by his own energy? So, as such, actually, there's nothing material or spiritual. In the higher sense, if you see, everything is spiritual if it's used in the service of the Lord. Right? So, there's nothing material or spiritual, even for the pure devotees. Right? So, like Prabhupada would say, sometimes money, bring money, want money. We don't want any money. We'll keep away from it. Prabhupada would say, bring the wealth of the world. We'll use everything in the service of the Lord. Right? So, even a pure devotee use so-called material energy in the service of the Lord. It's not material anymore. Right? So, for the Supreme Lord, there's nothing material or spiritual. Actually, everything is spiritual. But because we use things in our own, for our own enjoyment, then it becomes material energy. Right?
This pattern, like recently, was speaking to one Prabhu, he serves the Rajmahal. So he was saying that even Maharaj, like most of the Maharajas, they use like the best of the gadgets, iWatches, everything. So then he was just saying that what is the difference when we use it and when they use it. So if suppose like my phone is kept here, if it rings, I'll see, okay, who will text it. Then again it rings, okay, Instagram, somebody is like my post, I'll like back, something like that. But then it was sometimes it doesn't ring. If there's no call. Okay, like, is my phone working properly? Is it okay? Yeah, but is the Wi-Fi on? Is the network okay? Something like that. But for a Maharaj, like if the phone is kept, also they'll never be like, disturbed by it. They only use it for Krishna's service if they want to attend some meeting or something like that, read something. So their purpose is very sorted and they want to use it for Krishna.
And therefore, we are supposed to abstain from these things because they can use it in the right way, but we get controlled by it rather than controlling it. Right?
Yeah, that's good. Even Jay Shetty, he's also a devotee, right? So he was saying that, what is it? What do you say? Detachment, yeah. Detachment is not basically, not being attached to something, but it is like when you have it and then you are not getting controlled by it. That's real detachment.
So,
For Krishna all the time. And we discussed many classes.
So that is called as Yukta Vairag, right? When you use things for the service of the Lord, Yukta Vairag. But then there can be a thin line, there we might use, and in the name of Yukta Vairagya, use everything, buy everything, things we do not, this Yukta Vairagya, I'm using it for the service of the Lord, right? So we have to be very careful. So as a general principle, simplicity is Vaishnavism, right? Prabhupada said that. So we should lead our lives very, very simple, right? And then if it's required for service, then we may use things which are required, like brahmacharis here in the temple, or the brahmacharis, celibate monks. They may be using a laptop or an Android phone, right? for preaching purposes. There are use a button phone. They don't use. So, so therefore we can practice simplicity, right? So then we will not be, affected by so many other things, which we might get affected otherwise, right? So we have to be a little careful in using things in Krishna's service. Any other questions?
Because of this technologies and everything, we were able to come for the class. Otherwise, the online class, if it was not there, we wouldn't have joined. So many people,
COVID was there or wasn't, you know, COVID was the time.
because of COVID and because of technology getting so advanced. हम लोग ने कभी सोचा नहीं था भगवद गीता we will follow.
We will follow and give the partner came to the interest.
But only because of technology that we could join, we could, मतलब फिर we can think about it.
So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was the guru of Srila Prabhupada, his appearance day was yesterday. He was Acharya in our movement, in our Sampradaya. He used a vehicle for transport. Otherwise, previously, no use vehicle. Sadhus be vehicles. And so he was the first one who, drove, like he was in a car traveling with the going in airplanes, right? So there is actually a sannyasi is not supposed to cross the oceans. Sannyasi is not supposed to do that. But then Prabhupada did that, right? So why did he do? He said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that this Hare Krishna movement will actually spread all over the world. So if he doesn't go, then how will it actually happen, right? So then he traveled in airplanes, he traveled, first passage was in a cargo ship, so many days he traveled. So at 70 years, he was not going there for sightseeing or for holiday, right, at 70 years of age. But he used it for the mission of his spiritual master, because his spiritual master gave him the instruction that you go to the West and preach, right? So like that, yes, the technology is used in the service of the Lord. And that is how sometimes we may have certain inclinations. For example, I would also be very much attached to or attracted to gadgets and things like that. So what do we do then? Anyways, attraction is there. If I don't spiritualize it, I'll use it in mundane things, right? So Prabhu is having, okay, maybe Kindle or ebook. Okay, it's good. Because then otherwise we'll use that same, thing, attraction for gadget in some other way, right? So spiritualize, connect to God. Someone else may be, good at maybe fashion designing. Good. Dress deities of the, dress the deities nicely. Use that inclination in the service of the Lord. And someone else may be good at singing. Use it for the service of the Lord. Someone else may be good at decoration, fine arts. Use it for the service of the Lord. That is how we spiritualize. That is what we read, right? Atashi Krishna Namali. So it begins with the tongue. When we spiritualize all our senses, then our senses will become purified. When the senses become purified, we'll no longer be attracted to anything in the material world. Even if the sense object is right here, present in front of me, I'll not feel any attraction for it, right? Because the senses are compared to the serpents. And serpents, if they bite, it's like you're dead, right? But Prabhupada would say, if you remove the poisonous teeth of the serpent, then there is no fear. Serpents have poisonous teeth. You remove that, even if you bite, nothing will happen. Similarly, if our senses become purified, senses are compared to the serpents. So even if the sense object is there right here in front of me, I'll feel no attraction for it. Because my sense has become purified by engaging it in the service of the Lord. Right? So therefore, if we have certain propensities, inclinations, it's good to use them in the service of the Lord. Otherwise, we will any which way do it and then, fall prey to so many things. And then best, everything like she said at the beginning, is done under guidance. So if there is any complexity or we are not sure whether we should do something or not, better to ask a senior devotee. I'm from today going to use a smartphone. I mean, everyone is using anyway, but I'm just giving an example. Or I'm going to buy this gadget for spreading Krishna consciousness. Then he will say, not required, don't buy it. So then you should follow it. Okay, so like that. Any other questions? So we'll end here.